Ladies and gentlemen, today we're going to tackle something that's hidden deep within and more dangerous than most people realize. It's not just about belly fat that you can pinch. I'm talking about visceral fat, the fat that wraps around your organs and quietly puts your health at risk. When it comes to eliminating visceral fat, the dangerous fat that surrounds internal organs, many people instinctively jump to cardio workouts or fat burning supplements. But priming your body with intense fat burning supplements. But what most don't realize is that one of the most powerful tools for burning visceral fat isn't a treadmill or pill. It's protein. Not just in how it fuels your body, but in how it transforms your metabolism, appetite, and hormonal balance to make fat loss sustainable, efficient, and long-lasting. The science behind protein's fat-burning power is clear. Unlike carbohydrates and fats, protein has a much higher thermic effect, meaning your body uses significantly more energy to digest and metabolize it. In fact, up to 30% of the calories in protein are burned just through the process of digesting it. This translates directly into a higher daily energy expenditure without you needing to add more physical activity. For someone trying to lose visceral fat, this subtle increase in metabolism can make a meaningful difference over time. But the advantages of protein don't stop there. One of the biggest challenges in losing visceral fat is fighting the constant urge to snack, overeat, or reach for sugary foods. Visceral fat is strongly linked to insulin resistance and erratic blood sugar levels, which trigger hunger even when your body has enough stored energy. This is where protein becomes a secret weapon. It helps regulate appetite hormones. Specifically, it suppresses ghrelin, the hormone that signals hunger, and increases levels of peptide YY and GLP-1. Two hormones that make you feel full and satisfied after eating. What this means in practice is simple but powerful. When you start your day with a high protein meal, you're setting your body up to eat less naturally over the next several hours. You're not forcing yourself to white knuckle your way through hunger. You simply don't feel as hungry. Studies have repeatedly shown that individuals who consume 30-40 grams of protein at breakfast end up consuming fewer total calories throughout the day. This is critical, especially for people struggling with stubborn abdominal fat, where hormonal dysregulation often plays a big role. Moreover, protein supports another vital piece of the fat loss puzzle: muscle preservation. When people reduce their calorie intake to lose weight, their bodies naturally try to burn both fat and muscle. But muscle mass is essential not just for strength and mobility, but for maintaining a healthy resting metabolic rate. The more muscle you have, the more calories you burn, even while sitting still. By prioritizing protein during a fat loss phase, you preserve lean tissue, protect your metabolism, and make it easier to keep visceral fat off long term. Let's look at this in practical terms. Most people eat carb-heavy breakfasts, toast with jam, cereal, or fruit juice. These spike blood sugar quickly and drop it just as fast, leading to a mid-morning energy crash and a craving for more sugar or caffeine. Instead, a high-protein breakfast stabilizes blood sugar, keeps energy levels consistent, and reduces the drive to snack mindlessly. Something as simple as 3 eggs with sautéed vegetables, a scoop of protein powder blended with unsweetened almond milk, or a bowl of Greek yogurt with chia seeds and berries can flip your metabolic switch from fat storing to fat burning. Timing also matters. Consuming adequate protein earlier in the day appears to have the greatest appetite regulating effects. A low-protein breakfast followed by a high-protein dinner doesn't have the same benefits. Your body is more insulin sensitive in the morning, so front-lugging your day with protein not only reduces hunger, but improves blood sugar control, which is directly linked to visceral fat accumulation. People who eat high-protein meals earlier are more likely to make better food choices later and less likely to overeat at night. When excess calories are most likely to be stored as visceral fat, there's also an important mindset shift that happens when you begin to prioritize protein. Rather than obsessing over cutting calories, you focus on fueling your body with what it needs. That simple reframe, eating more of what supports your goals rather than less of everything, makes fat loss more enjoyable and sustainable. You feel full, satisfied, and energized instead of deprived and fatigued. Not all protein sources are created equal, of course. Lean meats like chicken breast, turkey, and fish are excellent options. Eggs are nutrient dense and versatile. Dairy products like Greek yogurt and cottage cheese are high in protein and also contain calcium, which may support fat loss. For plant-based eaters, tofu, tempeh, legumes, quinoa, and high-quality protein powders can deliver similar benefits. The key is to reach for whole, minimally processed sources that support your overall health while helping you hit your protein target. A general rule of thumb for fat loss is to aim for 1.6 to 2.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight per day, depending on activity level. For most people, that means somewhere between 100 and 150 grams per day. That might sound like a lot, but when spread across 3 or 4 meals, it becomes manageable, and the payoff is huge. Many people who struggle with hunger, fatigue, and slow progress during fat loss simply aren't eating enough protein. In the context of a 14-day plan to eliminate visceral fat, this habit alone can kickstart rapid changes. Within just 1 week of switching to high-protein meals, most people notice a significant reduction in appetite, fewer cravings, and a flatter-looking stomach. Not because fat has disappeared overnight, but because bloating and water retention are down, and blood sugar levels are more stable. By the end of 2 weeks, combined with other supportive habits like movement and quality sleep, measurable reductions in waist circumference and improved energy are common. Protein isn't magic, but it works like magic when consistently prioritized. It aligns your physiology with your goals, making fat loss feel less like a battle and more like a flow. It gives you control over your appetite, preserves your muscle, and shifts your body from fat disturbing mode into fat burning mode. And for something as serious as visceral fat, arguably one of the greatest hidden threats to your health, taking that kind of control is not just helpful, it's essential. One of the most overlooked yet profoundly effective strategies for burning visceral fat doesn't involve any special foods or supplements. It doesn't require going to the gym or spending hours on a treadmill. It simply involves changing when you eat. Time-restricted eating, sometimes referred to as intermittent fasting, has emerged as one of the most powerful lifestyle tools for improving metabolic health, balancing hormones, and eliminating dangerous belly fat that builds up around your internal organs. Visceral fat is not just a cosmetic concern, it is metabolically active and hormonally disruptive. It surrounds your liver, intestines, and other vital organs, pumping out inflammatory signals that increase your risk of type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and even some cancers. Unlike subcutaneous fat that sits just under your skin, visceral fat is often hidden and stubborn. What makes it particularly insidious is that it's linked to chronically elevated insulin levels. When insulin is constantly high, thanks to frequent eating, especially refined carbohydrates and sugary snacks, your body remains in a fat storing state and rarely taps into its fat reserves for fuel. This is where time-restricted eating becomes a game changer. By limiting your eating window to a specific period each day, say 8 to 10 hours, you give your body extended periods of time when it isn't digesting food, isn't producing insulin, and can finally begin breaking down stored fat for energy. During this fasting period, insulin levels drop, glucagon rises, and the body switches into a fat-burning state, tapping into visceral fat for fuel. The benefits are not theoretical. They're supported by a growing body of scientific research. Studies have shown that people who follow a time-restricted eating plan, even without changing the quantity or quality of food consumed, tend to lose more abdominal fat and improve markers of insulin sensitivity. In one study, participants who ate during an 8-hour window experienced a significant reduction in visceral fat over a few weeks, even though their total calorie intake remains similar. This suggests that when you eat matters as much as what you eat. The effectiveness of time-restricted eating is partly due to the way it aligns with your circadian rhythm. The human body has evolved to metabolize food more efficiently during daylight hours. Eating late at night, especially heavy meals, confuses the body's internal clock, disrupts sleep, and increases the likelihood of fat being stored instead of burned. When you eat at irregular or extended times, your digestive system, liver, pancreas, and hormones fall out of sync, making fat loss far more difficult. By contrast, eating within a defined window that starts in the morning and ends by early evening allows your body to work in harmony with its natural rhythms. A common pattern, for example, is eating between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. This gives you an 8-hour eating window and a 16-hour fasting window. When you are in a meal fasting window, which by the way does not work, during those fasting hours, your body isn't constantly digesting or producing insulin, giving it time to repair, reset, and burn stored fat for fuel. Beyond the physiological benefits, time-restricted eating simplifies decision-making. With fewer hours to eat, there are fewer opportunities for mindless snacking or late-night emotional eating. This often leads to an automatic reduction in calorie intake without counting or restricting. Many people find that when they skip late-night snacks and unnecessary morning nibbles, they naturally consume fewer calories and make better food choices within their eating window. What's particularly promising is that the benefits begin to show up very quickly, within just a few days. People report increased energy, better digestion, and less bloating almost immediately. After about a week, fat loss becomes noticeable, particularly around the waist. This isn't just due to fat burning, it's also the result of lower insulin levels, reduced inflammation, and less water retention around the abdomen, all of which contribute to a flatter looking midsection. And the approach is flexible. Some people thrive on a 16-8 schedule where they fast for 16 hours and eat for 8. Others prefer a 14-10 or even 12-12 split. What matters most is consistency. The longer and more regularly you practice time-restricted eating, the more your body adapts and becomes efficient at burning fat during the fasting window. In fact, your body starts to become metabolically flexible, able to switch between burning carbohydrates and fat as fuel more effectively. This metabolic flexibility is one of the keys to lasting fat loss and improved energy levels. Of course, this strategy works best when combined with smart food choices. Time-restricted eating is not a license to binge on processed foods or high-sugar meals during the eating window. To maximize visceral fat loss, it's important to focus on whole foods, lean proteins, fiber-rich vegetables, healthy fats, and complex carbs. These nourish the body, stabilize blood sugar, and support long-term hormonal balance. But even without changing your diet drastically, simply narrowing your eating window will often result in better portion control, less emotional eating, and reduced cravings. Another critical piece of the puzzle is what happens before bed. Eating late at night, especially meals high in sugar or fat, can completely sabotage your progress. Not only does it interfere with sleep quality, but it also raises overnight insulin levels, which directly promotes visceral fat storage. By making a habit of finishing your last meal at least 2 to 3 hours before bedtime, you're allowing your body to enter a deep restorative fast during sleep. This is when fat burning, detoxification, and hormonal repair occur at their highest levels. Many people are surprised to find that their sleep also improves when they stop eating late. The body sleeps more deeply when it isn't digesting. Melatonin levels stay elevated, cortisol is better regulated, and the nervous system enters a more restful state. Since sleep and stress are also key players in the accumulation of visceral fat, this added benefit of time-restricted eating creates a reinforcing loop. Better sleep leads to lower cortisol. Lower cortisol means less belly fat and improved insulin sensitivity, which then supports deeper sleep, and the cycle continues in your favor. Perhaps the greatest beauty of time-restricted eating is its simplicity. There's no need for complicated meal plans, no tracking apps, and no calorie counting. It's a pattern, not a diet. And because it works with your biology, not against it, the results often feel effortless once the routine is in place. Hunger decreases, cravings diminish, energy increases, and the waistline begins to shrink naturally, without force. In the context of a 14-day plan to reduce visceral fat, adopting time-restricted eating can yield rapid changes. By consistently finishing meals earlier in the day and extending your overnight fasting window, you train your body to dip into its fat stores and burn what it no longer needs. Combined with a high-protein diet, daily movement, and proper sleep, this one change can significantly accelerate your results and set you on a path to lasting health. Time-restricted eating is not just about losing weight. It's about resetting your body's internal rhythm, reducing inflammation, and restoring your natural ability to burn fat. For those looking to eliminate dangerous visceral fat and reclaim their energy, it may be the simplest, most sustainable habit to start with, and one of the most powerful. In a world obsessed with high-intensity workouts and flashy fitness routines, it's easy to overlook one of the simplest and most effective tools for reducing visceral fat: walking. Not just walking in general, but specifically taking a 10 to 15-minute walk after meals. This small, easy-to-implement habit carries a surprisingly powerful impact on your metabolism, digestion, blood sugar levels, and ultimately the burning of visceral fat, the dangerous internal fat stored deep within your abdomen around vital organs like your liver and pancreas. Visceral fat is unique in how it behaves. Unlike the fat just under your skin, this type of fat is metabolically active, releasing hormones and inflammatory signals that disrupt your body's natural balance. It's closely tied to insulin resistance, high blood sugar, and chronic inflammation. Reducing visceral fat requires more than just eating less. It requires optimizing how your body processes glucose and manages insulin. This is precisely where walking after meals shines. When you eat, especially carbohydrate-rich meals, your blood sugar naturally rises. Your pancreas responds by releasing insulin to help move that sugar into your cells, where it can be used for energy or stored. But when blood sugar spikes too high and too often, particularly in people who are sedentary or insulin resistant, the body becomes less efficient at managing it. Excess glucose gets stored as fat, and a significant portion of that fat ends up accumulating around your organs. Now imagine if there were a simple way to flatten that post-meal blood sugar spike. Research shows that walking for just 10 to 15 minutes after a meal significantly reduces blood sugar levels and improves insulin sensitivity. Even more impressively, the effect is immediate. You don't have to wait weeks or months to see a difference. In fact, in a study published in the journal Diabetologia, participants who walked for 15 minutes after meals saw greater reductions in blood sugar than those who took a single 45-minute walk at another time of day. That's a crucial detail. Timing matters. When you move your body soon after eating, your muscles act like sponges, soaking up glucose from your bloodstream without needing as much insulin. The result is a more stable blood sugar profile, less fat storage, and a smoother metabolic response. This simple shift, walking after meals, directly targets the cycle that leads to visceral fat accumulation. It reduces the need for large amounts of insulin, lowers your body's tendency to store excess fuel as belly fat, and signals your metabolism to keep burning rather than storing. Over time, this leads to a gradual reduction in fat around the midsection, even without drastic changes in diet or intense workouts. That's the beauty of this habit. It doesn't require special equipment, gym memberships, or long-time commitments. Anyone, regardless of age or fitness level, can do it. Beyond fat loss, there are other benefits too. Walking after meals improves digestion by stimulating the movement of food through the gastrointestinal tract. It reduces bloating and gas and can prevent sluggishness and heaviness that often follow big meals. It's also a natural way to relieve post-meal fatigue, especially for those who experience a dip in energy or feel sleepy after eating. Instead of crashing on the couch or reaching for caffeine, a gentle walk helps energize the body and clears the mind. There's also a mental component that shouldn't be overlooked. Establishing a walking routine after meals adds structure to your day. It creates a moment of pause and reflection, a built-in buffer between meals and whatever comes next. This transition time can be used to listen to music, reflect, or simply enjoy being outdoors. In a world that constantly demands speed and distraction, this short walk can serve as a grounding ritual, a reminder to slow down, take a breath, and reconnect with your body. When viewed through the lens of a 14-day plan to reduce visceral fat, adding post-meal walks is a low-barrier, high-impact strategy that amplifies all your other efforts. Combined with a high-protein diet and time-restricted eating, this habit accelerates fat burning, regulates hunger hormones, and reinforces a healthy relationship with food. You're no longer eating and collapsing into inactivity. Instead, you're signaling to your body that food is fuel meant to be used and moved through your system efficiently. There's also a compounding effect. When people begin walking after meals, they often find it easier to commit to other forms of movement as well. The resistance to exercise begins to fade. Energy levels improve, mobility increases, and most importantly, confidence builds. The habit itself starts small, but often evolves into longer walks, light jogs, or even structured workouts. But the foundation, those short, intentional walks after meals, remains the cornerstone. It's worth noting that you don't have to walk far or fast to benefit. This isn't about logging steps or turning every walk into a workout. A brisk pace is helpful, but even a slow, steady stroll is enough to lower blood sugar and promote fat metabolism. If weather is an issue, walking inside your home, climbing stairs, or using a treadmill can deliver the same benefits. What matters is consistency and timing. Moving your body shortly after finishing your meal, every day, ideally after all main meals. The psychological reward is real too. After just a few days of post-meal walking, many people report feeling lighter, more in control of their eating, and less bloated. Clothes start to fit more comfortably. There's a sense of forward momentum. And because the effort is so minimal, the habit feels sustainable, something you can keep doing long after the 14-day mark. It's easy to underestimate simple habits, but it's often the smallest actions that create the biggest shifts. Walking after meals might not be trendy, but it's time-tested and scientifically proven. It aligns with how the human body is designed to function. Moving gently after eating, using fuel instead of storing it, and maintaining balance rather than chasing extremes. In a culture that prizes intensity, this subtle strategy quietly outperforms. If your goal is to eliminate visceral fat and build a foundation of health that lasts, walking after meals is one of the smartest decisions you can make. It's a reminder that movement doesn't need to be extreme to be effective. It just needs to be consistent, intentional, and well-timed. Over 2 weeks, this single habit can begin reshaping not just your waistline, but your relationship with food, energy, and your own potential for change. And the best part? It starts with a single step. In the pursuit of fat loss, most people instinctively look to diet and exercise first. They cut calories, join gyms, buy supplements, and count steps. But very few stop to ask a much more important question: am I sleeping enough? Even fewer consider how deeply stress is sabotaging their progress from within. And yet, when it comes to eliminating visceral fat, the dangerous fat surrounding your liver, pancreas, and intestines, nothing derails results faster than poor sleep and unmanaged stress. These two invisible forces don't just make weight loss harder, they create the exact hormonal conditions that cause visceral fat to accumulate in the first place. Visceral fat isn't just about what you eat or how much you move. It's a physiological response to chronic stress and hormonal imbalance. When the body is under pressure, whether from work, emotional distress, poor sleep, or even under eating, it responds by activating the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, also known as the HPA axis. This triggers the release of cortisol, the body's primary stress hormone. Cortisol has an important role in short-term survival. It increases blood sugar, suppresses non-essential functions, and keeps the brain alert. But when cortisol stays elevated for days or weeks, it begins to do real damage, and one of the first places it causes that damage is your waistline. Chronically high cortisol levels promote the storage of fat, particularly around the abdominal cavity. This isn't just a coincidence, it's an evolutionary adaptation. Belly fat is close to the liver and easily converted back into glucose in times of need. That was useful for ancient humans under physical threat, but today, most stressors are psychological. Our cortisol rises not because we're running from predators, but because we're sitting in traffic, juggling deadlines, checking emails late at night, or worrying about finances. These constant mental stressors keep cortisol high, blood sugar unstable, and fat storage on overdrive. To make matters worse, high cortisol disrupts insulin sensitivity, which means the body becomes less efficient at processing carbohydrates. Glucose lingers in the bloodstream longer, requiring more insulin to manage, and excess glucose eventually gets stored as visceral fat. The cycle becomes self-sustaining. Stress raises cortisol, cortisol impairs insulin, insulin promotes fat storage, and the presence of visceral fat increases inflammation, which further disrupts hormones. It's a spiral that no amount of crunches or dieting can fix unless sleep and stress are addressed at the root. Sleep is where the real healing begins. During sleep, especially deep, slow-wave sleep, your body releases growth hormone, a powerful fat-burning and muscle-repairing agent. It also lowers cortisol, restores metabolic balance, and improves leptin and ghrelin signaling, the hormones that regulate hunger and fullness. Without enough quality sleep, the body simply doesn't have the opportunity to reset. In fact, sleep deprivation has been shown to increase hunger, reduce impulse control, and lead to higher calorie intake the very next day. People who regularly sleep less than 6 hours a night have significantly higher levels of visceral fat compared to those who sleep 7 to 9 hours. But it's not just about the number of hours you sleep. The quality of your sleep matters just as much. Going to bed late, sleeping with the lights on, scrolling on your phone before bed, or drinking caffeine in the afternoon all reduce sleep quality, even if you spend 8 hours in bed. The goal is to support the natural rhythms of your body's circadian clock. This means winding down earlier, limiting exposure to artificial light at night, and creating an environment that signals safety and rest. Stress, too, needs to be addressed deliberately. It's not about eliminating all stress. That's impossible in the modern world. It's about managing stress effectively. This can take many forms. Deep breathing exercises, for example, activate the parasympathetic nervous system, which slows heart rate and lowers cortisol. Meditation, nature walks, journaling, creative hobbies, and even talking to a trusted friend can help the body shift from fight or flight mode into a calmer, more balanced state. The goal is to train your nervous system to return to baseline quickly rather than staying in a prolonged state of alert. Ironically, many people push themselves harder when they're under stress, cutting calories more aggressively, doing longer workouts, or overscheduling themselves to stay productive. But the body interprets this as additional stress, and the result is often the opposite of what they want. Fat loss stalls, sleep worsens, cravings intensify, and motivation drops. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do for your body is to rest, to go to bed early, to cancel a plan, to say no, to allow space for stillness. These moments of pause are not laziness. They are recovery. And recovery is where transformation happens. When someone commits to prioritizing sleep and reducing stress, changes often happen fast. Within a few nights of better sleep, energy levels improve, brain fog lifts, cravings for sugar and caffeine decrease. After a week or two, waistlines begin to shrink. Not always because of fat loss at first, but because inflammation and water retention begin to subside. Over time, as cortisol levels stabilize and hormones rebalance, the body becomes more responsive to exercise and nutrition. Fat loss accelerates not because of effort, but because the internal environment is finally optimized for success. In a a 14-day plan to reduce visceral fat, sleep and stress reduction might not sound as exciting as new workouts or diet hacks, but they are foundational. They create the conditions that allow all other habits to work. You can eat the cleanest diet in the world and train like an athlete, but if your body is inflamed, exhausted, and overloaded with stress hormones, it will resist change. It will hold on to fat as a form of protection. Only when the nervous system is calm and sleep is deep does the body begin to release what it no longer needs. Change begins by creating a nighttime routine. Shut down electronics at least an hour before bed, dim the lights, take a warm shower, read a book, journal, meditate, anything that brings calm. Keep your room cool, dark, and quiet. Go to bed and wake up at the same time each day. These seemingly simple habits teach your body that it's safe to relax. And when your body feels safe, it lets go, it heals, it burns fat, not just for the sake of appearance, but as a natural return to balance. In the end, sleep and stress are not just pieces of the fat loss puzzle. They are the frame that holds everything together. Address them seriously, consistently, and with intention, and you will begin to see not only a leaner body, but also a calmer, clearer mind and a life lived with more vitality and peace.